Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into a really creepy Hindi horror film called The Past. And let me tell you, this is a story where writer's block is literally the least of someone's worries. So picture this. You're a novelist, you're on a deadline, and you need to get away from it all to finish your book. You find this perfect, isolated bungalow, but instead of getting that creative spark, you find something else waiting for you. A terrifying presence that, well, it wants to write its own story, and it's planning on using you to do it. Okay, so our story kicks off with Simran. She's a writer, and she moves into this quiet bungalow with her sister, Alia. The plan seems simple enough, right? Just finish the novel. But yeah, the house has some very different plans. And that peace and quiet they were looking for, it lasts for like all of 5 minutes. Almost right away, this really strange, heavy feeling just settles over the place. You know that feeling, when the hair on your arm stands up and you just know you're not alone? And the first real warning sign is, wow, it's a chilling one. Alia is on a video call with her friend, Disha. And suddenly, Disha just freaks out. She's yelling, "Who is that standing behind you?" Of course, Alia whips around and there's nobody there. Then the call just cuts out, just like that, leaving them with this horrible, sinking feeling. Pretty soon, whatever is in the house, it starts to focus on Simran. She starts having these terrifying blackouts, waking up in the creepy basement with absolutely no clue how she got down there. She's seeing things, too, like a ghostly woman just sitting in a rocking chair. And then there's this one really bizarre moment where she wakes up in bed next to a complete stranger she apparently brought home, but she has zero memory of any of it. Now, at first, Simran does what any of us would probably do. She tries to explain it all away. Oh, it's just stress, you know? My imagination is getting the better of me. But the incidents just keep happening, getting scarier and more frequent. And you can just feel her grip on what's real starting to slip. And then things really escalate. The haunting isn't just happening in private anymore, it's getting public and frankly terrifying. When her friend Disha comes to visit with her fiancé Aman, Simran, who's been a vegetarian her whole life, is seen just tearing into a plate of chicken. And not long after that, she just attacks Aman viciously. It's clear at this point, this isn't just a spooky feeling in a house. Something is deeply, visibly wrong with Simran herself. Okay, so her friends just can't deny it anymore. They know this is way beyond stress or an overactive imagination, so they do the only thing they can think of. They call in a paranormal expert, a woman named Jane, to try and figure out what on earth is going on in that bungalow. And Jane basically walks in, takes one look around, and confirms their absolute worst fears. This isn't a medical problem. Simran is possessed. And not just by some random ghost either. Jane says it's a Diablo, a powerful, angry, devil-like spirit. So the first big piece of the puzzle comes from a really unexpected place, the gardener. He sees the possessed Simran, and he's just stunned, because he doesn't see Simran at all. He sees a woman named Sanjana, the person who lived in that house 5 years ago, right before she mysteriously disappeared. Now that they have a name for the spirit, they can finally start to understand her story. Speaking through Simran, Sanjana reveals this deep, deep well of pain that's fueling all her rage. We start to learn about this woman who was trapped, whose voice was completely silenced when she was alive. It's this tragic story about a lonely wife, a marriage that was a total lie, and this slow, awful descent into isolation that ended, well, it ended right there, in that house. And this right here is the absolute heart of her tragedy. See, Sanjana got married with all these dreams of love and partnership, but her reality couldn't have been more different or more cruel. Her husband, a man named Yuvraj, had actually been forced into the marriage by his family. The truth was, he was secretly in love with other men, and that left Sanjana completely, devastatingly alone. So now they know who is haunting the house, and they have a pretty good idea why she's so angry. The whole investigation shifts. It's not about what is this ghost anymore. The new question is much darker. What happened to Sanjana's body? So they call Yuvraj, the husband, to the bungalow, and he just sticks to his official story, 5 years ago, my wife disappeared. I filed a missing persons report. I have no idea where she is. He's playing the part of the confused, grieving husband. But his story just doesn't add up, does it? If Sanjana's ghost is so powerfully attached to this house, it's pretty clear she didn't just pack a bag and walk away, which leads to a really awful question. And when he's confronted by the spirit of his own wife speaking through Simran's body, well, Yuvraj finally breaks. He confesses everything. The horrifying truth is that Sanjana took her own life, right there in the house. And in a total panic, he buried her body in the basement. So why did he do it? It wasn't because he was evil, it was pure fear. Turns out, Sanjana left a suicide note, and in it, she blamed him for everything. Yuvraj was terrified that the police would find it and think he'd murdered her. So his desperate, panicked act to hide the body, that's the very thing that trapped her soul in that house. A choice made out of guilt and a desperate need to save himself. Okay, so the full tragic story is finally out in the open. The stage is set for the final showdown. They have the truth now, but that doesn't change the fact that they still have to save Simran from this vengeful spirit who's basically holding her hostage. At this point, Jane, the paranormal expert, knows she's in over her head, so she calls in the big guns, a specialist, a real exorcist. And he makes it very clear, this is not going to be easy. Sanjana's spirit is unbelievably strong, and it's being fueled by years and years of pain and rage. What follows is just this violent, chaotic battle. Sanjana's spirit fights back with everything it's got, using Simran's body as both a shield and a weapon. The exorcist realizes the only way to break her hold is to find her physical remains. So they dig up her bones from the basement, perform the final rites, and they finally manage to force the spirit out of Simran's body for good. And just like that, the fight is over. Simran, completely exhausted and traumatized, is finally herself again. The angry presence that just filled that whole bungalow is gone. For the first time, the house is actually quiet. So, as everyone else is packing up, ready to get out of that house forever, Yuvraj does something surprising. He tells them he's staying. He's choosing to live there alone with the memory of Sanjana. It's almost like a self-imposed punishment, you know? A way of accepting that even though she's gone, the truth of what happened will be with him forever. And that really leaves us with this one last haunting thought. Simran is safe, the ghost is gone, but the tragedy itself feels like it's been burned into the very walls of that house. It just makes you wonder, right? Can a place ever really forget the pain it's witnessed? Does an echo like that ever truly fade away?